Well, good morning. It is good to be with you guys this morning as we begin a brand new series. And I know what some of you ladies are thinking, finally, a relationship series. And some of you guys are thinking, I was just getting to like him and how he's going to weave cows into comparison to my wife and make it sound good. He must be a genius. So here we go. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and we prayed about this as a staff and talked about this. And you know, this is a tough week to do this, but as I began to think about this, I almost shifted gears a little bit, and I thought, you know what? Strong families, strong marriages, strong relationships in our churches is the center of where this country needs to be right now. And some of you guys are a tremendous example of that, and some of us may have a little ways to go. And so when you say that we're going to talk about our relationships, then it can create a little bit of tension. And so today, really what I want to try to do is kind of lay the groundwork for this. This is kind of an introductory message, so it's a little bit different than what you might normally hear me do, but just kind of stay patient, stay plugged in, stay connected, because here's the thing. When a lot of times when ladies hear this, okay, when wives hear this, they're like, yes, let's talk about our relationship. Let's talk about our marriage. Let's talk about what we got going on. And so just kind of stereotype this a little bit and flip it around. When guys hear that, they say, something's wrong, and I know how to fix it. Okay? And so here's the thing. As much as you may think that we like to work on cars, and some of us have car hobbies that we like to work on, but when it comes to the daily driver, when it comes to our car, we really don't want to work on it. We just want it to work. Okay? We just want to get in that thing and it hits and it goes, okay? So we don't really concern ourselves too much with working on it all the time. We just want it to work. And so sometimes when we look at something, it's like, well, you know, if it ain't broke down, then why should we work on it? Okay? One of the most troubling things that my wife can see is to look out the window in our kitchen into our garage and see me there with the hood up on the car, especially when we're getting ready to go on a trip, because, you know, I can do a few things, but I trust Kevin more than I do myself when it comes to those things. And so when she sees me trying to get something done right before we're leaving, she's usually like, oh, and there's a history to that, see, because we were getting ready to go to Florida one time, and I was at my good friend Buddy Brisenine's house. It's been several years ago, and we were sitting there on the carport, and I was taking some stuff to his son, and we loaded everything up, and I started the van up, and this belt is just kind of making this whistling, kind of this whining sound. He's like, you don't want to drive to Florida with that, do you? I said, well, you know, I don't have time to do it. He said, come here. So I drove out to his shop, and he goes in, he gets a thing of brake fluid and a little brush, okay, this little bitty paint brush, and he raises the hood, and he kind of gets a little bit on the end of that thing, and he's down in there just kind of doctoring around. I'm sitting there watching, and he's just kind of doing this and doing that, and that thing, all of a sudden, that little squeal's gone, and that thing's just sounding great. And he said, there you go. I drove all the way to Florida back, no problems. Well, we're getting ready to go to Nashville. This is a few years later, and so I've got our van up there, and I started up, and the belt's kind of making that same sound, and I'm like, I watched, I learned, I know what I'm doing. So I go get me a paintbrush, I get me some brake fluid, I got the hood up, and I lean in, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay. And Kevin, I just touched it. I mean, I just so ever slightly, you know what's coming, don't you? I just touched that belt, and all of a sudden that whole serpentine belt said, whoo, just out from under that, and I was like, oh, wow, look at there, what's going on there? I don't know what happened there. And it's like, oh, and she's standing up in the window looking and going, what was that? Oh, it's nothing, just, you know, we're just doing a little belt shooting practice out here. Everything's fine. It's totally normal, just totally normal. And so what happens is it's like, look, if it's not broke, okay, if it's not broken, then is there really anything that we need to do? And so we don't want to work on it. We just want it to work. And so when we hear this, it just kind of makes it a little bit concerning. And so here's the thing. Do we really need to talk about our relationships? And the answer to that question is yes. Okay? Yes. There's a thing that I like to teach in ag mechanics called preventative maintenance. And there are certain things that you have to do or things will begin to come unraveled. And so having a conversation about those things and beginning to open a line of communication is kind of where we want to be. And here's the thing. You guys ever heard of a hope chest? girls used to do this. And some of you may have had one, and this is something that's kind of a little more traditional, a little older. But when girls were growing up, they used to have this, a lot of them would have a cedar chest, and they would have it in their room, and it was called a hope chest. And so in that hope chest, they would begin to put things that they hoped to have and things that they would have for their relationship when they got married someday, and they would have all these things gathered. And here's the thing. All of us have that. Whether it's a real box or not, there's an imaginary relationship box that all of us have. Okay, all of us have that. You have it, I have it, we all have that because we all have hopes, okay? We all have desires, and we all have dreams. And so when we begin to think about this box with all of our hopes and all of our dreams and all of our desires in it, we all have these things in our relationship. And here's the thing. We've had this for years. Many of you have begun dreaming about this when you were really, really small. Okay, and so when we enter into a relationship, we begin thinking about that. It's like, I have all these desires, I have all these wonderful dreams and all these hopes for my future, and you are going to be the one to fulfill that. Now, here's the thing. As we grow in a relationship, as we come together, as we go through this process, I begin to discover what's in your box, okay? And you begin to discover what's in my box. Now, here's the thing. Whenever that happens, whether it's before or maybe it's at the altar and it's like, here are the vows that I've written for you, and they start reading them and you're going, holy cow. And that's where you learn what's in the box, okay? And it's like, I'm in, aren't I? Yeah, you're in. And I'm up here, we're going, yeah, you're in. The license is on my desk. It's over. And it's like, wow, I didn't know. So you get all these things. And here's the thing. Some of you may have been married for years and you don't know what's in the other's box. And that's a problem. Okay? Because trust me, they have one. They have one. And here's the thing. When we begin to look at what this is and trying to, because there's all of these expectations, all of these hopes, dreams, and desires in all of our different areas of life. Okay? Our finances. It's a big area. Okay? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your desires? Yeah, we're going to have a budget. And we're going to live on a budget. And she's like, this is how this works. And we have these categories and all these things. And he's standing over there going, that sounds like an allowance. I don't like living on an allowance. And so you're trying to figure all these things out. And it's like, well, I don't know how that's going to work. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, so we're going to combine our incomes. And of course we're going to have, a shared Facebook account. And that's going to be that. It's like, wait a minute, I don't know how this all looks. And then all of a sudden you hear this like, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. And it's like, wait a minute, yeah, okay, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. And well, I'm in there somewhere. I'm into that equation. It's like, okay, I think that must be it. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know about that. I'm not so sure. Well, where are we going to live? Are we going to rent? Are we going to buy? Are we going to be in the country? Are we going to be in the suburb? Are we going to be in town? Where's that all going to be? What's my hopes? What's my dreams? What's my desires? How many kids are we going to have? I mean, we're going to have 2 kids, right? I mean, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have 2 kids, unless we have 2 girls, and then we're going to keep trying till we get a boy, okay? We're going to have 2 kids, we're just going to have 2 kids unless we have 2 boys, and then we're going to keep trying till we get a girl, okay? And then maybe we wind up with a basketball team, but it goes either way, right? It's boys and girls, and so we just go, what's it going to be? You see, if we haven't talked those things out, all of a sudden we find ourselves going, I didn't think we were going to do this. I didn't know we were going to have a herd. I didn't know how this was going to go. You see? And then we have hopes and dreams as it relates to the calendar. Now, some of you know exactly where I'm at when I say that, okay? Where are we going to spend Christmas, okay? Where are we going to spend Christmas, Some people are just like super at this. It's like, hey, I'm going to be my family only wants 3 holidays, okay? It's really simple. We'll take Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter. And you guys can have all the rest. I mean, you can have Halloween, you can have Groundhog Day, and you can have Earth Day, okay? And then you can have all the rest. It's all totally fine. And we'll just get along great. It'll be fine. It's like, wait a minute. I hadn't thought about that, okay? My daughter has just gotten married, and so all of those things are just ahead of her, and it's already starting to, it's like, oh, well, this part of the family's in St. Louis, and this part's over here, and you guys go there. And all of a sudden, it's like, how does this, and then how do we get through conflict? We have conflict resolution. How do we solve problems? You guys have histories of that, see? And so what worked in your family's house and what you're used to, you tend to kind of bring that in, So you may come into the marriage and say, listen, we just scream it all out, okay? We just yell it all out. We get it all out there, and it's all right. And then they're on the other side going, Oh, wow, that doesn't work. I'm just, Dad used to just kind of go off in the garage and just, out on the farm or, maybe a couple of states away for a couple of weeks. Whatever it is, okay? And it's like, how is this going to work? How are we going to settle this? How are we going to work through conflict? So you have all of these things that's in your box, and it's like, and you bring it in, and then you ask the question, how are we going to treat each other? How are we going to behave toward each other? Because, I've got all my hopes and dreams and desires, and I have all these things, and if he loves me, he would never. If she loves me, she would never say that. She would never do that. He would never do that. He would never say that. Now, how are we going to treat each other? How are we going to behave toward each other? And so we have this box of hopes, we have this box of dreams, we have this box of desires. And there's several things that determine what goes into that box. And the two things that are most important and most common in that is it's what we've seen and heard and what we've experienced. Okay? Because by the time we get to marriage, by the time we get to that stage of our life, and by the time we get to that place, we were raised somewhere. Okay? And so what you've seen and what you've heard has a whole lot to do with what you have in your box. And that can be positive and it can be negative because it's largely impacted by what we grew up in and what we grew up around. And so here's the thing. We're trying to do one of two things. Either we're trying to avoid something. It's like, it's not going to be that way. This is not the way it's going to be. What I experienced when I was growing up, I don't want that to be. Or my mom and dad had it right, and they did a great job. And so I'm going to try to recreate what I experienced. But it largely has to do with what you've experienced and what you've been around. Because you either want that or you want to do everything to avoid that. And so your experience, you bring that with you. You bring that in, and then there you are. My hopes, my dreams, and my desires. When you look at that, my hopes, my dreams, and my desires. The problem with that, okay, is there's a whole lot of my in that, okay? There's a whole lot of me in that. There's a whole lot of what I want. There's a whole lot of what I'm dreaming. There's a whole lot of what I desire. And so when that begins to be the case, okay, and so you come to this point in your dating relationship, you come to this point in your marriage relationship, whether it happens at the altar, a month, or a year into the marriage, what you do is you take your hopes, your dreams, your desires, your box, and you hand it to your spouse and say, here, make it come true. Make it come true. Now, the problem with that is, okay, the problem with that is when we hand our box to our spouse, that's not what we receive. We don't receive a box of hopes, dreams, and desires. Instead, what we receive is a box of expectations. It's a box of expectations, and that doesn't feel like hopes, dreams, and desires. What that feels like is a burden. What that feels like is a responsibility. What that feels like is setting myself up for disappointment. Okay? When you receive it, it doesn't feel like hopes, dreams, and desires, but it's a box of expectations. And you see, when it feels like that, it's like, if I don't come through for you, then you may feel disappointed in me. Okay? An expectation is the strong belief that something will happen or that it will be the case in the future. Okay? Something will happen or it will be the case. That's what an expectation is. And so attempting to recreate or avoid something from the past transforms hopes, dreams, and desires into expectations. And this is what happens. Because I have my hopes, dreams, and desires, and you have your hopes and dreams and desires, and so we're swapping them, we're handing them to each other. And so this, even in the best of relationships, okay? Even in the best of relationships, even when the best fall down sometimes, even when the wrong words seem to rhyme, out of the doubt that fills my mind, I somehow find that you and I collide. Now, some of you Grays fans, y'all caught that, okay? You and I collide. And see, when that happens, when eyes collide, we become a burden to our spouse. And when eyes collide, there's one of four things happen, okay? When eyes collide, one of four things happen, and the first is pretty radical. We leave. Happens all the time. Over 50%, okay? Over 50% of all marriages end in divorce. When eyes collide, it's like, hey, this is not what I signed up for. You switched gears. You changed horses. You changed, I don't know who you are. Okay, this is not who I thought you were. This is not who I thought I was. I didn't sign up for this. Okay, this is not where I plan to be. I mean, I don't know who you are. Okay, and I'm out. I'm just out. And that happens all the time. It's the first. It's radical, but it's the first thing that happens. It's like when eyes collide, then there you go. I can't handle the pressure. And this is what happens. When that happens, this is what you do. You pick up your box of hopes, dreams, and desires, and you carry it off into your next relationship. Okay? You carry it off to your next relationship. Now, the second thing that can happen is we win. All right? We win. Now, if you want to have a miserable relationship, let me give you the 4 C's to make that happen, okay? And I have to be careful because I can be guilty of some of this, all right? Because this is a thing. Because in relationships, there's usually a stronger personality. In relationships, there's usually a stronger personality. And so when we say, here, this is my hopes, my dreams, and my desires, and it's like, come on, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to win, okay? And so then we employ the 4 C's. And when we employ the 4 C's, this is what we do. We convince, we convict, we control, and we coerce, okay? That's what we do. We convince, we convict, we control, and we coerce. And see, this is the thing. I'm good at this because it's what I do for a living. I'm persuasive. Okay? I teach and I preach. And so my job is to convince you and to persuade you to follow Jesus, right? And so God gifted me to do that. And so it's something I have to be very careful in my relationship because this is the thing that people do when you employ these in a negative way, and it's like, hey, your box is bad. I don't know what you put in that box. I don't know what you're thinking, but come on, if you'll just do what's in my box, we'll both be happy. I mean, come on, look at this. This is the way this thing should go. This is what you need to adopt my dreams because look at my dreams. They're so much better than yours. And all of a sudden we're convicting, okay? It's like, come on, this is not what we decide. I mean, come on, this is what we talked about, and this is how this is going to go, and this is what's going to. And so we convince, and we convict, and we coerce, and we control. If you'll just abandon your hopes, dreams, and desires, and you'll adopt mine, then we can both be happy. Okay? I mean, come on, it's just that. I mean, here's the thing, and here's the thing: the winner in this, okay, the winner in this is happy. Okay? It's like, I got my way. Okay? I convinced and coerced and controlled and did what I had to do, and so now I got my way, and it's like, I'm happy. Okay? I'm happy. And when you talk to us, it's like, how's things going? Well, yeah, it's going pretty good. I mean, he's coming along. I mean, she's coming along. I mean, he hadn't sold that thing yet, but he's getting there. Okay? Pray for him. He's all right. He'll get there. He'll figure it out. And it's like, wait a minute. And this is what happens. This is how that unfolds, okay? When someone wins, the opposite reaction happens in the other person. And that's the third thing. We conform. We conform. You see, when I win, she conforms. When she wins, he conforms. Because what happens in that situation is it works for a while, all right? Because we abandon who we are in order to make the other person happy. We abandon our hopes, we abandon our desires, we abandon our dreams, we set our box to the side, and then we adopt what the other person wants, and then things are okay. And see, it works in the relationship because when that happens, the temperature goes down. It's like, whew, finally, you're coming around to my way of thinking. And the temperature kind of comes down in the relationship, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what and then as time goes on, it's like, this is really not what I expected, but I'm okay. And that takes us to the fourth thing, and this is most common in marriage. We either leave, or we win, or we conform, or we do what a lot of couples do. And this may be you, and this is why I said this creates a little tension, because we compromise. And some of you are sitting there going, well, yeah, isn't that it? Isn't that the goal? Be careful, okay? Because this is where a lot of us land. This is where a lot of couples land, is they land at the compromise. And this is what a lot of people think is the goal, because it's what you're doing, okay? And maybe for you, this is what was modeled, okay? Your parents have been married for a long time, and it's like, yeah, and they just, and you start, and it's like, I really don't know. There's a lot of things that look kind of strange, but they just, and then you hear this. They just sort of figured it out, okay? They just sort of figured it out. It's a compromised relationship. And here's the problem with it, okay? Your parents weren't real happy. They just kind of figured it out. And in a compromised marriage, there's scorekeeping. There's constant scorekeeping. Because it's like, look, this is what you do, and this is what I do. It's a compromise. This is what I do, and this is what you do. And you didn't do that last night, and so you got a mark against you. So you got to come back, okay? You got to meet me back in the middle. We got to come back to the compromise. There's constant scorekeeping, and so there's this constant thing that goes on, and it's like, wait, whoa. What do you mean we're going to do this on Christmas Eve? Because we've already decided last year what we were going to do. It's part of the contract. It's part of the compromise. And here you go, going down a different road. You see? Constant scorekeeping and constant contractual agreements, and then that's kind of where we land. And as long as we keep everything going in the right direction, it's okay. But in that kind of a relationship, there's something that lacks. And this is what it is. In a compromised relationship, the thing that is lacking is trust. Because in constant scorekeeping, we're constantly looking to think, when's he going to mess up? When is she going to not come together with her end of the bargain? And so then we don't fully trust the other person. And so in that relationship, there's a lack of trust. And when you have a lack of trust, because you can compromise and you can go the distance. You can live to the end. You can go all the way to the end in that kind of relationship, as long as you keep score. And as long as you keep it on the top and you keep things rolling, it's like, I do this and she does that and he does that and she does that. You can make the distance. But this is what you miss. This is what you miss. There's something better. There's something better. The compromised relationship is fueled by the dedication to the relationship. This is what you hear in a compromised relationship, and this is very pervasive in a lot of folks, and you hear this a lot. I'm committed to my marriage. I'm committed to my marriage. I want my marriage to work. Okay? What's the problem with that? It's a lot of my. There's a lot of I in that. Okay? You become committed to the relationship. You become committed to the idea of marriage. And listen, nobody marries a marriage. Okay? Nobody marries a marriage. And so the real question is, are you committed to me? Am I committed to you? You see, when we become committed to marriage, we miss something. It sounds good on the surface, like, yeah, I'm committed to marriage. I'm for marriage. I'm 100%. Yeah, that's okay. But am I committed to you? In 1996, we met Ogie. First time Sandy and I went to a fall festival of marriage. It was a marriage retreat, and this couple was the keynote leaders for the weekend, and their names were Otis and D.G. Andrews. And their marriage was named Ogie. And that was the first thing they put up And that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, look, let me tell you something. We are one flesh. We are one flesh. I'm committed to her, and she's committed to me. And together, we are one. And our name is Ogie. And that is our marriage. And we're committed to that. And I was sitting there going, that's revolutionary. That's real. Because that's what God did, right? The two shall become one flesh. You see, when we become committed to an idea or an institution, we're missing something. And the thing of it is, it's not very fun, okay? And it's not very fulfilling. When eyes collide, we leave, we win, we conform, and we compromise. And next week, we're going to examine a passage of Scripture, and we're going to discover a fifth option. So don't miss, okay? We're going to discover and talk about a fifth option. But today's purpose is simply this, a conversation starter. Today's purpose is to open a line of communication. Today's purpose is to make you think, okay? And some of you may be going, oh, brother, I wasn't expecting this today. I wasn't expecting. The goal of this series is to work on relationships. The goal of this series is to take us back to Genesis 2:24 and that God created marriage. Okay? It's why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife and they become one flesh. Okay? Listen, it's his idea. And listen, let me tell you something. It's what's wrong with our world today is we've lost this. It's what's wrong with our nation today is because we've lost this. It's what's wrong because our families are falling apart. Our families are falling apart because when we live in a compromised relationship, there's constant scorekeeping. And listen, there's more to it. There's more that God has for you. Listen, this is what Jesus said to us. In John 10:10, this is what he said. He said, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Listen, he came so that you could have life to the full. He wants your relationships to be more than commitment to an institution. He wants your relationships to be more than a commitment to a title. He wants you to have life and have it to the full. There's more to it than that. He wants you to become one flesh with your spouse. And here's the thing, listen. In order for it to be that, he has to be the center of it. He has to be the center of it. Listen, that's what's wrong with our country. It's what's wrong with society. And here's the thing, I'm not here bashing society and bashing our country. I'm trying to encourage you because I believe you have the answer. I believe you have the hope. I believe you have what it takes. I believe that in this community, other people can look at your life, can look at your kids, and look at your marriage and go, I want what they have. I want to know what it takes to have that kind of love. I want to know what it takes. And listen, some of you guys are in a place where you are looking for a relationship. Let me encourage you, okay? Listen, don't worry about who that person is going to be. Don't worry. Strengthen your relationship with Christ because, look, he already knows, okay? It's not a surprise to him. When you come to him and say, who do you have for me, Lord? He doesn't go, oh, man, I don't know. I'm just, farmers only, whatever you want to do, okay? I don't know. Come on, listen. He knows who it is. When you draw close to him, he'll draw close to you, and he will reveal that when the time is right. Okay? The problem is we get impatient. We want to do it on our terms. Okay? We want to do it our way. We want to do it in our place. Listen, come on. Just draw close to him. That's where it begins. That's where he loves you. He created you. He created marriage. He said very clearly in Genesis, the beginning of that is, it's not good for man to be alone. And I think that goes for woman too. It's not good for us to live by ourselves. We were made for community. We were made for fellowship. Listen, don't try to solve that on your own. Take that to Christ. Say, look, I'm lonely, and I need you. And I need you to fill a hole in my heart. Listen, come on. When he fills that hole in your heart, okay, when he fills that hole in your heart, he will fill it to the full. He wants you to have life and have it to the full. You got to trust him. Listen, come on. You can't have intimacy in a marriage relationship if you don't have an intimate relationship with the one who died for you. It has to be there first. It has to be. And listen, don't give up hope. You're like, oh, come on, you're just killing me, man, because he'll never come to church with me. She won't ever come to church with me. Come on, listen, don't give up, okay? Don't give up. Tell me, all right? I want to know. If that's your prayer, if that's your struggle, okay, if he stays home or she stays home and she won't ever come, he won't ever come, tell me, okay? Tell me. And we'll pray together. We'll unite in prayer that God will somehow, some way, in his way, draw them to him. Because it has to be. It has to be. Where are you in that? Where are you in that? The abundant life in marriage. If you're listening and hearing this and you're thinking, yeah, this is hopeless. There ain't nothing in my life going to change. Let me encourage you as we leave. Try this first. Turn to Christ. Turn to him first. Trust him first. Lean on him first. Strengthen that relationship first. Come on, listen. He wants to talk to you every day, okay? Pray and read. Pray and read. Pray and read. Pray and listen. Pray and listen. And trust him. Trust him in his time. In his time, okay? And then he'll begin to open doors. He'll begin to tear down walls. And he will change your life. Come on. We can have more than a compromised relationship. We don't have to leave. We don't have to win, okay? We can have more. We don't have to conform. We can have more. We can have more. We can have life and have it to the full. When both individuals strengthen your relationship with Christ, your relationship with each other grows stronger simply because he is in the center. You know where you are with that. You know where you stand with that. I don't. This is a conversation starter, folks, and it could be kind of tough this week, and that's okay. All right? I got red on today because Wednesday was Valentine's Day. All right? I don't know how that went for you, okay? I don't know if that was a good day for you or a bad day for you, okay? Don't be like Troy Richards and convince his kids that the Valentine's Day is on the 15th because candy's half off, okay? All right? Listen, it can be better, all right? It can be better. It can be stronger. That's what God wants for you. That's why he wants to use that to reach a lost world. He wants to use that to change the world. And you can have that. And I believe it. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much. Thank you so much for who you are and what you want and what you desire for us. Lord, you know where we are in our relationships. You know what needs to happen. You know the conversation that needs to be had. And Father, I realize that this could be a tough ride home for some. We just need to take a step back, take a deep breath. And it needs to begin with you. We don't need to go home and tie into anyone. We just need to step back and we just need to listen. We need to listen to you. We need to make sure that we are tuned in. We need to make sure that we are plugged in. And we need to make sure that that relationship with you is as strong as it's ever been. Lord, you want more for us. You desire more for us. In the Garden of Eden, you brought Adam and Eve together, and the two became one flesh. That was your model then. It's your model now. And Jesus said that he came. Father, the thief is out there to try to steal what we have. But you came that we have life, and that we have it to the full. There's a deeper, meaningful relationship, Father, out there for us. Lord, you know how we need to respond. You know what we need to do. You know the conversations that need to happen this week. My prayer is for each couple here. My prayer is for that single person here that's looking to see what you have for them. Father, wherever we are, been married 50, 60 years, thinking about getting married, been married 2 weeks. I don't know. Meet us where we are. That's what you do. And Father, help us to center it in our relationship with you. I pray now, Father, that we would respond. We would reflect in the way you've called us. We ask it now, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Would you please stand?